Don't that look better? Huh? Way better. And he'll get more control with these because there's a wider, they're wider, which means you're spreading the leverage load further out, so you get more turning power, if you see what I'm saying, more torque on the handlebars, so to speak, which is very much needed. Yeah. No, it's all working out good. It's just, these are the original bars, so there's no reason why the stuff shouldn't be able to go back on and reach. So I'm not going to put the visor on yet, nor am I going to put the mirrors on yet, because we've got a lot of spraying to do, unfortunately. I've got to go back round all of this area here. Kind of debating whether to go satin with it, to be honest with you. It may look much nicer than a pure black gloss. Okie dokies, Monday morning, just been down the yard. Right, these ruddy indicators, they reckon they're going to send me out some new diodes, but to be honest with you, I think I might just skip the old idea of that and go on to little miniature relays. And I've just picked 3 of these up. I only need 2 in total. What I want to try and achieve is the switch down here, they click on when you flick the switch on, and then they both engage these 2 wires to their separate areas, and then when you flick the switch off, they're off, which disconnects these wires from the main system, which means when you do left and right, I get left and right. I've also got to get some resistors because I need to slow those front ones down dramatically. I've got a feeling there might be some LEDs in there because they're going like the bleeding clappers. So that's the job for today or tomorrow. Now, we have picked up some more bits. The Ford Transit seems to be donating a lot of stuff to this because we now have a handbrake. So I've got to modify this a little bit, maybe cut it down as well in size because they're a little bit on the large side. What I might do is cut along that line there and then go down, slice it, bring that handle closer in, because we really do need to get, possibly need to get that smaller. We're going to cut these pegs off and get rid of the base piece, and I might even get rid of the cable as well, because that's a bit of an awkward affair. And I think I have around the corner here in my bike spares bin, up there might be a clutch cable, I'm hoping. No, I don't think there is. I think they cut the flaming thing off, if I'm honest with you. There's nothing on. No, he's cut. The bugger's cut it at the yard. I had a clutch cable. I don't know if there's one in there. There might be one in there. I don't know. If not, I'll have to reuse that cable, but the cable's a bit on the short side, and I would like to be able to run that cable right the way through the whole of the bike and run it right to the back, and then make up some sort of mechanism here with a block of steel and connecting nuts. Not connecting nuts. Actually, yes, connecting nuts, because I've done something similar to that before, where you put 2 connecting nuts, weld them to a plate, drill 2 holes each side of that with 2 more nuts going into the connecting nuts, so you thread the cable through and then you do the nuts up, and that's it, they're locked in, solid, absolutely solid. But it doesn't give you much room for tensioning up, which is going to be an issue on this one, so I don't know how that's going to happen at the moment. Yeah, we'll see. Let's get the first half of it done first, I suppose. We can always straighten this out if we have to and have a new bend up this end, but if I can find a clutch cable or something of that calibre, that might possibly work. Unfortunately, when we cut that off the van, I turned around and told him that that length would be fine, and then when I got home I realised it weren't, and the rest of the cable's still on the truck. Unfortunately, we cut it now, so it's too late. As you can see, the clutch, where are we? Over this side, Sean, come on. There's the clutch cable, and it's a little bit longer, so the handbrake will probably go over this side or this side. I reckon I'll have to go that side, because if we keep his hand off the throttle, he can then apply the foot brake thus, and then he can pull the handbrake on at the same time, let go of the foot brake, and the trike ain't really going to go anywhere. So I may try and find a way of coming off here somehow and have it fitted here where it's convenient. A lot of people put them down on a swing arm, but I never like them down there. I like them where you, because you get off the bike, you see, and then the damn thing starts to roll on you if you don't get down there quick enough, and at his age he's not going to get down there quick enough. So we really do need to put it here. It'll all work out in the end. The other thing I'm going to do today, I'm going to visit the engineering shop. I'm going to take him this, I'm going to take him that, but I'm bringing that back. And I've got a Sherpa prop shaft with a slider on. Do you know what, I never checked. There's a good chance that's Sherpa. I'm going to go and get the Sherpa because it might have the same sub pattern, because I use transit engines in them. No, unfortunately it's a completely different end. Has a UJ on it, but it has a spline and it isn't a bolt on, so that ain't going to work. Right, so that's that really for this morning demonstration of what we've got. So I need to get on. Okay, just got back from the engineering shop. He says he can do everything for me, not a problem. So to keep the cost down on the prop shaft manufacturing, I've just got to cut, service, de-rust everything. That should save him, well, however long it takes me to do that job, a good hour I imagine. So like £60 an hour, that's 60 quid saved. So yeah, we've spoken about it. He's going to make it all up for me, and we'll get a brand spanking new prop shaft, and it'll be a better prop shaft than what I could do, because my lathe's got a bit of a throw out and I can't get that 3-jaw chuck off. I don't know how to do it. That and the fact that I've broken a change wheel. So right, next on the agenda, even though that guy said he's going to post me out some new ones, I'm going to put some relays in, or we're going to have a go at it anyway. So that's my next project. Right, finished. Indicators, that is. We've put 2 small relays in here, and we've taken power straight from that relay there, which comes straight to the battery. So it goes from there to that battery, comes out of the flashing coil, and then it literally goes to all of these, although I'm having a bit of trouble with some of these epoxy things. And it goes to that, and it all works fine. Let me just put that pin back. It's extremely bizarre, this, because the more load I put on that relay, indicator relay here, the faster these blaster things go. Now I've got a bulb out at the front, look. Well, in out, it's just bad earth. Look at that. 5 times quicker. Take those relays out and it's actually at the point where it should be. It's working the way I designed it to, apart from it's going too fast. That's the weird thing about it. Shut them off. There you go. So I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to buy 4 ballast resistors. Try and slow them down as much as I can, at least. What a nuisance this has been. We'll overcome eventually. Okay, so that's what's left of the prop shafts that I show you, and this is what I believe he's going to do. He's going to machine that weld out there, which is a friction weld, and you'll be left, once he's got rid of that, he'll be left with a little lip, what do you call it, a shelf that slides onto. And then I think he's going to machine this one back about the same distance that he needs for the shelf, and he'll quite literally push this one on top of that one, and then he'll make up a spacer for this, so as that can go in there like so. Sorry, that can go in there like so. But what I do need him to do, because I don't want to do this in case I get it wrong, that sliding mechanism, I only need about 1 inch. So I think we're going to have to get him to cut that back a little bit, so he's got a little bit more room to play with on this. So yeah, we'll see where we go. It's a bit inconvenient that this sticks at, you know, you've got all of that when really that could be that side, and he told me to cut that down to a decent length. I might have took too much off, but we won't tell him that. Never mind. This cannot exceed 8 inches at all. I've only got 8 inches to play with from that point to that point. If it's any longer than that, I'm worried it's going to get snagged up on here, or the little shaft that's got to go inside will get snagged up on the big steel plate. Excuse me. that I've got going on inside there. You've got to remember, this thing tilts up and down, and it's going to move that shaft up and down, and I'm really hoping that it doesn't hit, and I don't fully know at the moment if it's going to. If it does, that's going to leave me with a massive problem, because it means I'm going to have to cut all of this out and come up with something else, and I don't know what. I ain't got the foggiest, not a clue. So I'm hoping for the best, but we won't get this back for at least 2 weeks. So this video, you will not see any results on this. You might see them on the next video, and we can only really do what we can do. So the next process of this is to wire brush this all back and sandblast where we can. I've got a sandblasting pot and some sand, but the sand's soaking wet. But I have learned that if you put water in it and you mix the sand with the water, it will spray out like a power washer, and we can get most of that off. So I shall wire brush where need be. I should do this tomorrow, because I can't be arsed tonight. Okay, so tomorrow, handbrake. Other than wire brushing that back, I want to get this handbrake done. We have this cable, and we do have a connector here that I can work with. And we've got an outer cable there, so we can build a block for that to sit on roughly around here somewhere. What I also do have, which I'm sure I can come up with something, is I have this mast stay cable plus these two smaller ones. Now note the eyelets there. I'll pull this one down. The back cables are pretty short because I went to hit it with a grinder, and they're not really long enough, but we could rig up some system. I'm not sure how at the moment, but we could drill that hole out, thread this through, drill a hole there so I can run a bolt through, and we can have that go along here, through there, and come out there. Do the same on the other side. And then because we're going to have two open end cables at the other end, which will be this, and then we can do a block of steel with D shackles. I happen to have those as well. Let me just put that back so I don't lose it. So D shackles here, various sizes. So if we weld them to a block of steel like so, we can then do those nuts up, which will lock up against the side of the cable. So if we do two of those for each cable, and then very carefully put a blob of weld over the end of the cable so it don't fray apart, that should be enough to support the back of this braking system. And then the front cable, being as it's a bigger cable, we can either remove this completely, and we can modify this bit to fit that bit, which you can see there's a pin through there with a split pin. So we could modify that somehow. I mean, it ain't difficult. And then we could have a new holder made up. We've got pipe, got loads of plastic pipe here, whole fuel line, that we can run the cable through, or the other one is we run copper. So we thread the cable through copper pipe, like brake line, large fuel line or something, up as far as the swing arm point, and then we have a stop off point there on the actual bike frame, and then we have a raw cable go across with another stopper point here, where the remainder of the cable can then run through and come out to where it needs to come out in order to grip the block. And we do the same with that, except this time we do a connecting nut with a hole drilled in it. We put the cable inside that connecting nut, we run a bolt right the way through to jam it up so it can't be pulled out, and then we run a threaded bolt on the end of that with a lock nut, two lock nuts actually, and then that goes through the steel plate, and then you use the nut to make up the adjustment on the tension. I know what I'm talking about, so if you can't follow that, don't worry, you'll see it all happening as we go along. But yeah, and that's stainless steel, you see, it won't rust. And to be fair, I don't think the guy will ever need to change those cables ever in the lifetime that they're on here. This one's useful in the sense that it's got the holder and it's at the right angle as well, but it then becomes a problem because this bit is too short. So the stopper is going to end up coming at a higher point than I need it to. For example, oh no, that might work well. if we can fit it there, that's where the cable is down there, so we could actually have the stopper, and that fits to the back. So we just need the, we could actually think about it. If I get this right, we can cut that and we can weld a threaded dowel in there that comes out longer than it needs to be. So we put a stopping point here on the frame so that don't flap about, and it can take the tension up, and then we literally just clean run the cable straight to the bit where it needs to go onto, which will be about here. So if the handbrake, bear with me, there you go, if the handbrake, that'll be about there, I reckon. So if the handbrake is there at that position, the cable stopper can go there, and then that can run straight underneath the foot brake, and then a solid rod can connect up to the back pieces, or I can even have those cables come right out underneath there with a little tiny circular guide just to keep cables steady so they don't flap about. Yeah, I think we've just figured out the handbrake, guys. Morning or afternoon. There it is, that's what I'm looking for. There, one spring. That spring was inside the hub of the motorcycle in question, the actual shaft, which goes in there thus, and the shaft sits on top of that, and what it effectively does is it pushes on the shaft to make this so it can slide on this when the suspension is moving up and down. The idea of that spring is to stop it from falling off the other end, so it's permanently pushing against the universal joint on the other end. Now with that in mind, me with a bit of a headache, because we've got the transit slider here which I've cleaned up, rusted and everything. Now I've cut this one down a little bit, I cut this one down, this needs some machining, but I'll leave that to him to do, because my machine is kind of wrecking everything. That goes in thus, and obviously there's no spring, so Land Rover to the rescue. Rover V8, this is on the rocker cover that pushes the rockers in and out, so that will go in there like so. Now as you can see, that's now permanently pushing on that. I don't think this will be a problem. I can cut this down. I have been debating about drilling a hole in the side and bending the wire so as it will stay, but to be honest I don't think it's going to be going anywhere anyway. So yeah, I've left a trench for him to cut, because I could do with that just a little bit, but I've left him the centre hole just in case he's got some machining to do of his own and he needs to put that on, because me being me, I went and buggered up the tube. I don't know how he's planning on doing this, so he'll probably now machine this one down so as it will fit snugly in this tube here, as close as possible. They are not allowed to be any longer than 8 inches. If he makes it any longer than 8 inches, I'm going to have problems, because as explained before, this tube here. But I can't see there being any problems. The man is an absolute engineering genius. I trust him 100%. So yes, that's where I've got that at the moment. Cannot do any more to that now. It's all de-rusted, cleaned up. The main prop shaft is here, that's got to go in, so that end has got to have a sleeve made up that can sit on the end of this, so that will get welded onto there like so, and then that will go in there, and then that rubber seal will clip back on the bottom with the spring inside, and we should be absolutely fine. I am looking forward to this being done. I really am. I know the guy's good. He's done me loads of props. After that BMW that came in my shed, trust me, it was a wreck. Somebody had handmade that prop and it had exploded apart on the poor bugger that was the owner. And yeah, he sent another prop through the post that came directly from an engineering shop. And I looked at that and I thought, you know what, that's just not worth the aggravation of making your own prop unless you 100% know what you're doing. I can do them, but I have a small throwout on my lathe which will never really quite get some smack on level, and if you get the welding wrong, and my welding's not the greatest, as I will openly confess, I think it was best to source this job out on that basis. So that is what I've done. He told me to... Okay, put everything back on because I just needed to see where it was all going to sit, and I've already made a cock up. I can't get this to go back to where it's supposed to be, so it needs to be way over here somewhere, So we've got to cut that plate off, move it over, put another plate underneath. Annoying, really annoying. So we can't alter that yet. I mean, we can cut it there, I suppose, and start putting threads on that so we can take it off completely. Or the other one is I extend this out. But it needs to be a pretty substantial piece of steel because it's the main braking system. There's a lot of stress going in that area. So yeah, my fault, my bad. Ready nuisance really, if you want the truth, but okay. Handbrake bracket's got to be made next. That's where we're at. I was just measuring up the prop shaft so we can see how far we've come. That's where the wheel would have sat, pretty much at that position there. So we've come out at least 7-8 inches further, but it doesn't look out of place. I don't think it do anyway. As I say, it's not ridiculous. I reckon some longer forks would make this look a lot better, because that would spread the load better on the engine, so the back will carry the weight better. Longer forks definitely lift the front up, give it a bit of a chopper feel. It's already got the chopper shape to it in the frame. Unfortunately, he wants the mudguard at the back gone and the rear seat position gone. After DVLA have done their thing, he wants me to hack that frame off. I don't really want to do it, but he says he won't be able to get his leg over the framework. So it had me wondering if I should put some sort of foot peg or some alley to protect that part there, so he can physically stand on that. I don't know yet, we'll see where we go. Once we've got it laid out properly, I'll get him to test it all out, and if I think it needs a foot plate to help him get on, then that is what it'll have to get. It's as simple as that. So right, handbrake is next. I need to work that out, but because I can't afford to buy the rear brake repair kits, getting the other cables done isn't really going to be much of an option. So I can only go so far with this. So I'm going to have to make the cable go to wherever it go, and then I'll have to stop at that point. I suppose we could weld a steel plate in with a hole drilled in it here as a guide, so when the cable comes in and that piece of metal we spoke about with a rod, we can then weld a piece of doweling to that can go through the hole, and wherever, I mean, we can cut it back so as this piece here, but these have been hacked off. These are not very good. I need to extend these with a bit more shape to them so they clear all the frame. Bit of a nuisance, but hey, that's kind of what it is, and they are not my work. They were on there when I got it. So yeah, oh, we need to put a tube as well, an anti-leak tube around that. That's the breather that I drilled. Somebody had welded the breathers up because I think this prop's been this axle's been turned upside down because of the revolutions on the engine. So both were welded up. Now I've just made a new one there. Everything is going together surprisingly well. Something's got to go wrong at some point. There she is. So far, pretty damn chuffed with that. I do like it. I don't like the engine size, but the styling that it's going down is pretty cool, I think. Right, moving on. Yeah, one brake. Quite pleased with that. I'm just going to have some trouble with it later though, because we've got to paint it up, and I can't pull the brake apart without wrecking it, and to degrease it is going to prove extremely difficult. So I'm going to have to put it to the bloke that he's going to have to get his missus or somebody to make up some kind of leather gaiter. The original gaiter for that, ouch, get out of the way, is this blasted great thing. Well, obviously that ain't going to work, is it? So yeah, I will paint it as best as I can, but degreasing is going to be extremely difficult. We can do the brackets I've made with no problems. If we lift this up like so, clean up with a wire brush, get some stuff on there, clean it, we can at least paint that bit, because I reckon this gator will come from up there and probably go along here somewhere. I'm wondering whether to drill some holes here and here, and maybe one there, because then he can put a padlock through that, and that will make it a bit harder for somebody to steal, because the brakes will be on. Won't stop them, just makes it harder. So yeah, it's all there, it's done. The cable retainer's in, the cable's been manipulated, as you can see, and we'll paint this up as well while we're at it. And tomorrow we'll cut that bit off and we'll weld a long 8mm bolt to that. Pleased with that, that's come out good. Come out really good. All one bracket, this bit here, up there the lot. Bent over, same with that one. Cut it out of that box steel because I didn't have any flat. And I've cut into that and shaped it so as the cable doesn't snag. So yeah, I am chuffed as hell. We'll paint these all up separately and then we'll put it all back on, and that'll be one job completed, would you believe? Right, those brackets are done, edge primer is on. I'm going to tackle the exhaust tomorrow. Well, the prop shaft is now in the shop. I got verbally kicked out of the shop because I completely confused him and mucked his head up. I'm not very good at transferring information to people, and I struggled and I confused him more than necessary, and he got a little bit rattle battle. Then I said to him about another job coming in later, and I got an immediate no. But he'll calm down. Nothing I'm not used to. I get the same response as when I go into the local scrap yards. But anyway, next thing I want to do before I start spraying up is the exhaust system. We've got two pipes. We've got one coming off at the front here, and we've got another one coming off here that comes out, goes round and then comes there like so. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut that one, cut this one. The curve from this one is going to get joined to that one so I can go round and under. This one will get joined to that one so I can go up and over. I do need to put the side panels back on so we can get clearance, and I'm hoping at the end of all of this, if I can pull it off, I hope I can because it's the only pipes I've got, is we're going to go for dual pipes on the back, which will look something, if I can get that to stay, which I can't, something like that, but a lot neater and a little bit more pokey uppery. She is now sitting on all three wheels, you might want to note. So yeah, I'm pretty pleased with the way this is heading. So yeah, we need to get the exhaust done next before we do anything else. The handbrake, that is now all painted up, ready to go back on. Buckets have been sprayed up, and the main handbrake unit has been sprayed up, but I'm not expecting that to last. One, because there's grease in there I couldn't get rid of, and secondly, it's going to scrape up and down. So I'm hoping that the chap will get his missus to make him a gator to go over all of that. I'm quite happy to pull it all apart for him if need be. So that is the first sprayed component done. So we'll do the exhausts next. I mean, we're going like the clappers here. We'll do the exhaust next, so they're done. Then we'll bring the swing arm back in the shed, do some more modifications because we've got a little bit of clearance issue with the prop shaft to sort, and we've got extender foot brake cable retainer because I've got that in the wrong spot, but that's not an issue, not really. We've also got to cut the rod itself on the cable and rethread that. That could be an issue because I'm not sure I've got the threads for that at the moment. I'll have to have a look, see what I can turn up. I think it's 6mm. So we've got that to do. And what else is, I'm just thinking, well, once we've got that done, I suppose we can then start the spraying. The indicator units, when I put them relays in, well, funny enough, I didn't think the bloke would do it, but he actually posted me out a whole new loom requiring the old one to be sent back. Well, I ain't unsoldering that. So I'm going to take the relays out and the flasher unit out. Now I know how it all works, and I'm going to put it back to how it was meant to be. That should slow everything down. I'm hoping it will slow it down enough for those indicators at the back to flash at the correct rate. Otherwise I'm going to have to buy some ballast resistors for that as well. So we're on top of everything. I would say 2 weeks from now we'll be ready to start spraying stuff up and start putting this thing together properly. Okay, it's a new day. Ran out of welding wire late last night, and I thought, right, okay, it's too late, we'll get any tonight. So I woke up this morning and there's bloody snow on the grass. It's melted now. God, don't like the stuff. Anyway, exhaust system not really going as well as I'd like it to, but it's going adequately. However, to my astonishment this morning, all my brake components have turned up for the axle, including a new spring set, because all of that is rusty. Painted everything else up, as you can see, it's all nice and tidy. Only problem is I've got to put the handbrake on now, because somebody, as in me, forgot to mark out where the positions are for the cable. So all that lovely fresh paint is going to get scratched, because I've got to take it all off again in order to paint the frame up as well. So I'm having a bit of a debate at the moment, because the weather's a bit rubbish, to whether to clear out a little bit of this area here and get the trike in here. But because I've got that big old bench and I haven't had a chance to move it over there yet, because I haven't had a chance to move those engines somewhere else. So what are we today? Right, so we're going to finish off the welding on this. I've just got to put some more tacks around that, and then I'm going to measure that up again, put it back on, measure it all up, make sure it is coming out where it needs to. I've made a small error. I don't know if this is going to make any difference. I'm hoping it won't, but I said in the beginning of this video that the front pipe was going to be the short pipe out to the back, and the back cylinder was going to be the long pipe that was going to go under. Well, I completely forgot, didn't I? And I started cutting it all up, and I've gone and done it in reverse. So the long pipe is even longer, and the short pipe is just 2 inches longer. So I'm hoping that it won't. I'm hoping that won't upset the performance too much, but that's got a long way for those gases to get out. Although the curves are not manic, if you see what I'm saying. I mean, they're okay. They could be better. Unfortunately though, the chrome has probably gone. I mean, the chrome on this exhaust is not really that great anyway, so I may just put it on and leave it, or I may just put some tape around that exhaust tape. I don't really know what I want to do. That stuff ain't cheap, and there's only so much I can do with this machine. But I don't want him taking this all off and then the head screws get chewed up. That's the one thing I don't want to happen. So I'm thinking about wrapping it myself, but the problem with wrapping mild steel pipes is that stuff gets wet, and this stuff rots like you wouldn't believe. It would actually rot quicker with the tape on than it would without. That's my concern. It won't last long, and I don't know what else to do with this. I ain't got the money to send it off to be chrome, so or ceramic coated. I ain't got none of that. I won't be doing any of that. So, and I thought, well, I don't want to sand the chrome off because that's a long-winded process and it won't be that tidy anyway. So do we put black paint all over it, proper exhaust paint? But that rubs off after time anyway. Doesn't do anything really. So I think I might just black that part that goes under, and then all these chromey bits that came with it, I'll make some more up. I'll go and hunt out some stainless steel exhaust from somewhere and cut the pipes down to make more of those, and I'll see if I can't somehow, where all these joins are, try and hide it with Jubilee clips, and then paint that all black with some exhaust paint and polish up the chrome that's gone rusty on me. I mean, these were brand new pipes cut a year ago, and he's had it off the road for 2 years, the previous owner, so I know he used to keep it covered up, and I know he used to polish it. It's just that 6 months of sitting in my garden without a cover on. I literally just put it in the garden and left it and didn't cover it up. I just left it because I had other plans with this machine. I didn't really care about the rust with the things I had going on in my head. So that's complicated it a little bit, but not over the top like. Anyway, let's get this welded up and put back on. The snow. Oh. Right. Everything is cut and most of them are tack welded up. The only thing left to do now is to make up the brackets to hold the exhaust on. That's where they're going. It's the only place I can put them. I have tried my hardest to get them elsewhere, but there's so many other obstacles in the way, like that back frame that isn't on there at the moment will be in the way. If I went under the trike, the master cylinder would be in the way, and I wouldn't want that heat near that anyway. So yeah, I'm afraid that is the best I can come up with. And we've got rusty metal and nice chrome metal, and unfortunately now all of that lot will have to be heat wrapped. There's not a lot we can do about that. We have got loads of little covers that came with the kit originally, as you can see these down here. So some of those can go back on, but obviously we're not going to be able to hide everything. Now this one, which is quite a horrible looking bend, that ain't an issue because he is going to have problems getting on this. So I'm going to make a massive foot plate to go here so he can put his left foot on there and haul himself up in order to get his leg over. I don't really want to cut any of the frame, and he's talking about a luggage rack as well, so I think that would be a very good option. I was hoping he'd find me a floorboard, but nothing's come, so I've got some steel and I'm going to make up something for that later on. So we'll put the exhausts on, we'll take them off, we'll weld them up, we'll get the brackets made next. Then I'm going to concentrate on that floorboard and that point there as well, because when I've got them finished, exhausts will come off, floorboard will come off, and the rear axle's going to come off because that kit is turned up for the brakes. But I'll put this on blocks, take the suspension off and joggle this up and down a little bit just to make sure we have got that correct centre. I believe I have, but there's no guarantees in the manner that I did it. Mathematically I couldn't figure it out, so I had to do it in alignment purposes, and that bolt that I used, or the series of bolts, may not have been good enough. Now the side stand switch we had, because we're removing the side stand anyway, so I took that off. Wouldn't give itself up willingly, so I got smacked with hammer. Problem is I don't know how these wire up. I haven't looked into it. I am on the assumption that you have to join the wires together when the stand is in. I could be wrong, but it still fires up with them joined together, so I don't blinking well know. Bit of reading to do there. Still fires though. Maybe it's been disconnected elsewhere in the wire, and that's kind of where I'm at on that idea. So yeah, we'll weld these up now, and then we've got to make some brackets and get them so they are sitting about as equal to each side as possible. I need to get some connecting nuts because I've got to lift this one up, so I'm going to re-drill that hole, that bracket, and lift that right up so it's nice and tight. And this one as well, a new bracket made for that, and that will get lifted in position so that's really tight, so none of this can move around. So I think that's going to come good in the end. So when I've done this and I've got those little bits done, the frame then needs to go in the shed. I've got to put the handbrake on first though, because I now need to mark out where the handbrake cable retainer is going to go, and I've also got to what was the other thing I needed to do? I've flipping forgotten now. Oh, handbrake up here as well, so we've got to mark up where that's all going to sit. Basically the handbrake is what I've got to figure out after this, and I'm hoping all of this lot don't get in the way of it now. I keep making more work for me. I know one bracket goes there, the other one goes there, so it shouldn't be in the way. Once we've got those marked anyway here, we can then take this all off, get it back in the shed, and we're going to wire brush the axle down, build up some supports on these tubes here because I'm not happy that they're safe as they are at the moment, and we'll move on to the next stage, which is wire brushing the inside of the hubs, and we'll spray up that area and we'll put all the new components on, clean all the drums up, put those on, and wire brush the rest of it down, and then we'll be ready for the final phase. Paint everything, so bed liner, frame paint. Once we've got that all done, we'll then reconstruct all the back end as you see it now, but finished, and then we'll take the mudguards, side panels, tank, front mudguard, and we'll spray them up in the colours that he wants. So we're not far away. I reckon about 250 quid should get this finished. That's a bold statement, isn't it? I'm talking about cosmetically and ready to ride. No, 350 quid, sorry, I forgot about the prop. I'm hoping that'll come in just under 100 quid, but I don't know at the moment. That could end up being 200 quid, so that could be 450 quid. What's it cost so far? I know the bike was 5, the steel was 100, I think, memory serves. The axle was already here, the wheels were already here. Welding wire, I've just bought some more of that. That was 33 quid for a 15 kilogram reel, which is not a bad price. That was BOC. Machine marked what, 53 quid for the same size wire. Yeah, that ain't happening. I think what BOC do is they take money off one item but build it up on the other that gets purchased more, if you see what I'm saying. So yeah, that worked out cheaper. What else is there? A few cans of paint purchased. I'll have to work it all out on paper. I've got everything written down. We've got all the brakes to put on here, the lights to put on. We've got all of that to add up. So I'll add the whole thing up and you'll get a rough idea what this has cost. Not a lot, considering what you're getting. Okie dokes, new day. I've just moved the rectifier. Quite chuffed with that. Because the swing arm's now in the way, you see, so I had to shift it a little further out. I wanted to keep it in the same spot because I didn't want to upset the airflow, and I didn't want to upset the wiring system. So we'll flip that wiring along. We'll drill some holes in here so we can put cable ties, and we'll flip it up under or somewhere. I ain't really made my mind up yet. The exhausts, they're on. I think they're equal. Hey, look it. That one might be a little shorter, but you know what, I can't be dealing with it. Those things are driving me up the wall. Gentleman, I'll have to alter them himself if he wants to drill some new holes. So I'm going to trim the plates up. Well, I say that, I might even leave them as well, and he can have a little play with that. He was talking about a luggage rack going on the back, so that's not something I'm doing at the moment, but that would balance everything out if it had it, that's for sure. So yeah, with those two jobs now finally done, I'm feeling a lot more confident about this now. That's the foot plate and the centre bolt holder. No, it's the outside edge bolt holder for the swing arm as well, which is there. The rose joint screws onto that and you run the bolt through. But there is only one point of contact to the frame, and it's here. This just goes through a random hole with no thread. So I'm now wondering if there's any point in that rose joint whatsoever at this point in time, but I have noticed that when you do that bolt up really tight, it is holding everything nice and firm. Anyway, it's got checker plate on it, and it's a good, don't you fall down on me. Checker plate over the top of some real heavy duty angle iron, and then with etch primed up. I'm wondering if anyone has actually noticed something about those rivets. No, in case you haven't, I've managed to counter bore so the rivets sit flush, because one of my next ideas with this is to possibly, I may not do it, but I'm thinking about running the sander over the top of those treads to get them shiny. Then again, your feet will do that anyway, so there's probably no point. So everything is all nicely rounded off. A few runs, but hey ho. So yeah, that's that part done. Okay, this is the final update of this vlog. Foot plate is on, painted, etch primed, and then black commercial on top. The rose joint is in place. I won't lie, I don't like this, it's ugly. Not only that, this metal is very flimsy. I've noticed when I had it out of alignment, you could see it pulling on that tin, and that's not going to be good. At the moment I believe I have the alignment perfect, but I'm not sure that that is actually going to stay at this point. I may very well cut that all off at the bottom at a later date and run it without, but I'm going to test it for a week and make sure that everything's working. But before I even consider putting it on the road, I'm going to take that rear axle off, and I'm going to take the shocks off, get this thing jacked up, and I'm going to move that axle up and down, or get my lad to do it while I'm watching this. And if I see any kind of overland where it's out of alignment, it's gone. It's as simple as that. I've struggled like crazy. I've had to space this all out. I've got a bolt holding that section onto the side stand. I've got a bolt going on behind here holding that on. It is, with this on there as well, it is solid. It's not shifting around. Now I need the plate there for the gentleman that's it just gives him an extra foot up to be able to get on that seat, because I've watched him walking around and he has got some severe leg issues. I'm still half and half to whether he's going to be able to ride it anyway, but having it in his garden so he's got something to look at the most should give him a bit of a boost, I hope. So what we got now, I just got to put the handbrake back on so I can remark where I believe the mechanism for the cable tension has got to go, and then I can mark up at the back roughly where the cables will be coming off the brakes. Now we can do those now at last because we've got all the brake components. So what does this all mean? It means that we can take this all off now. I've got some alterations to make to that tube on the swing arm, not a massive problem. So we'll get this all back in the shed, and behind the scenes, I'm not going to film this bit, behind the scenes I'm just going to trim up where it's needed to be trimmed, and then on the next video you will see me wire brushing everything back, cleaning everything, and we finally get what some of you are looking forward to, the paint process. And I don't just mean on the axle and swing arm, I mean on the whole thing. So we're going to start touching up the frame, so I'm going to give this a damn good power washing, get all the oil and grit off with the power washer, because I've got a steamer. So we're going to just go, we're going to blitz it, and we're going to see what we can come up with. Now I'm going to try and remove some of these side casings if I can. I'm a little nervous about doing it, but I would like to shift the alley ones off because I'd like to sand them back and put some metallic silver on those, etch prime up and metallic silver and lacquer if we can. I don't know if we're going to be able to get that one off because I'm a little nervous about half the clutch falling apart on me, so that may get masked up, and we might go with it from there. The centre case is fine. The cylinders, not a lot I can do about those apart from a very fine wire brush back. That's about all I can do with those. If I could find some heat silver, I'd spray them, but I'm not seeing a terrible importance to deal with that, to be honest. It kind of is what it is. So the exhaust systems, well, we've just got to play around with those brackets on the back, but we will do that closer to time to when we actually have to put those back on, because I'm not going to lie, I don't like the angle. I mean, that was a great idea at the time, but they're just too high. I need to bring them down a little lower. These pipes really need to be about here, if I'm honest. So we'll go about the spray job that we spoke about, and then we'll come back to those at a later date. I'm also going to drill out the baffles as well, because I think they're a bit restrictive. I'll tell you what I'll do. I don't know if I've actually done this yet, but I can't even remember if I fired this thing up before I stripped it. But that has a different engine note now since I've made everything bigger. Here, cold. It's a good little runner. Normally. So that's because I ain't got the battery put on properly. We've also got to readdress the indicators because we've now got those bits in. So I'll take my relays off and have another bash at that, because we need to slow that down. Because we're putting LEDs in the back, I'll have to put some ballast resistors in as well to slow the indicator flash, and I might even go as far as putting some LEDs in the front ones as well. We've got an earth issue to sort out on one of those new lights that you give us for this. I've got some mirrors to fit. I'm dreading those. I don't like them. They're horrible looking things. My attitude is they're plastic and they just don't look very strong, but he wants them on, and what this gentleman wants, this gentleman gets. We'll have to clean up some of the other components we've got lying around here as well. This little unit here's got to come off and be wire brushed. Horn's got to be sanded back. So it's all cosmetic now. So we're going to go through that frame when everything's removed. We're going to get rid of all that matte black that the previous chap put on, and try and sharpen up some of this ear paint as best as we can. I mean, we're not going to be able to do a full restoration on the frame because I'm not taking that engine out, it's a nightmare, but we can mask up certain areas and just touch up where it is dodgy, because at the end of the day, once this is on the road, it's going to get trashed. Road salt, stones, all that sort of stuff. We are going to be repainting the tank, the rear mudguards and the front mudguards, and the side panels. Side panels I wasn't going to use, but I actually do now. I've done what I've done. I actually do suit it, so they will get addressed. And then there's the front forks we've got to look at, and I still do keep debating whether to whip them buggers off, because they're longer, same diameter tubes. I suspect that will fit those forks, but I don't know at the moment. I'm still half and half at this point. So that's that. This is pretty much the end of the video. The rest you will see next week. So all I have to say on that one is thank you very much for the comments that you've given me last week and all the likes that you guys are pressing, and hopefully come next week we'll start seeing some paint go on. So I'll see you next week. Bye bye.